Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about kit bashing and some concepts for game design so that we can get started on building our levels. Okay, and we don't necessarily need a kit bash. You could totally build out your level using the geometry stuff that we learned in the last lesson and make a really cool game following along with all of those, and then applying in some of the different blueprints that we've developed for the cannons, the kill volumes, and things like that. But if you wanted to also use some 3D models from outside of using those geometry, I'm going to show you that real quick and kind of how the process could work. All right, so if you're just joining us right here, putting on the Fritz 3D visualization, check it out to see the rest of the videos in this series and kind of get caught up on what we're working on, and like it and subscribe. All right, so let me go ahead and talk about this a little bit, get my head out of the way. So kit bashing is basically what I like to call it anyway, when we go in and we take models from other games, other sets, and use them however we want in our own game. Now again, you know, these are free ones that came from the marketplace. There are some caveats that go with being able to use them, publishing games and making money off of somebody else's work, of course. So make sure you're following along with the rules for that. Check out each of the individual requirements, because not every kit, not every model has all the same requirements. You know, it can be used in Epic Games only, for example, or you can use it but you can't make any money off of it. You can't publish it, or you can have free publishing and do whatever you want. So those are some of the things you got to think about and check out before you start, putting a game out there. You don't want that to come back and get you in trouble later on. All right, so these all came out of the same kit, and I'm going to show you basically where I got those from. Typically, you would go to your Epic Marketplace and get it from here, but for whatever reason, my Epic Marketplace, both here on this computer at home and my work computer, has started causing some problems. I can't seem to get anything off of it anymore. Certainly not any free stuff. I haven't tried buying anything lately. So what I've done instead, there's a workaround. You can just go to the marketplace, okay? And so you just go online to whatever browser you like, go to Unreal Engine Marketplace, and open that up. Then you have to, of course, sign in. There'll be a spot for you to sign in over here somewhere and get signed in. And it's actually connected to your library back over here on Epic. So anything you purchase, either or get for free here in the marketplace or online in the marketplace, will show up here in your library. Okay. So let me show you the one I was just using. It's actually the Infinity Blade. Okay. And helps if I type correctly. All right. Infinity. Why is it not coming up? Came up a minute ago. Now it's not doing it at all. Yeah, Infinity. There we go. Helps to hit the space bar hard enough. Okay. So there we go. There are props. There are different types of worlds already that you can check out. So some pre-assembled maps. Everything from Firelands, Icelands, Grasslands. So basically this was a game that Epic was putting together. They never published it from what I understand. And you can, they put it out here on the marketplace for you to download this stuff for free, use it in your games. Again, make sure you're checking to see what you can do with them before you actually publish. But there you go. This is where you can find them, and they're free. They'll all go to your library. While we're here, let's talk real quick about the free for the month. Make sure you always come in here every month, check out the free for the month, because you can get quite a few assets that are given to you for free that sometimes cost just a few dollars, all the way up to costing several $100s. So there you go. Make sure you check that out. All right, so let's minimize this out of the way. And so the one I'm using is the Infinity Blade Temple. And so if I go down to here we go. I go down in here and find it. here it is. You just would click on it to add to your project, and it'll add it to your project. See some other stuff I've gotten for free as well. All right. So once it's downloaded, you'll find it in your content. This one's called Environment Pack 2 for some reason. I don't know why. Others have come in as Infinity Grasslands and things like that. But if we go into this folder, you'll see that there's blueprints. So there are some models that already come with a some sort of interactivity with them, and you can try them out. I haven't tried any of these, so I don't know what to tell you. There's one that's called Castle. That's kind of cool. You can just click and drag and drop it in, which may have been a bad decision because that's a big model. All right. So there you go. Wow, that's really intensely big. And it'll take a bit for it to obviously get all the textures and stuff like that. But there you go. There's a big one. I don't know what the blueprinting interactivity is, but I'm going to go ahead and delete this out of here so we can move on. All right. So that's how you put them into the worlds. Let's go back here. Effects. This one comes with just this particles effect for petals. I believe those are just falling off a tree. There are some pre-built maps already, so if you wanted to kind of see how they use the different models in different maps, you can do that. You can open one of these up, check them out. You can even grab some of them and import them into your game if you wish. Of course, for the rollerball, it may not necessarily work straight across. You'll have to think about that as you move along. Materials. This is where all the materials are used that are used in these worlds. Some of these materials are preset for UVs, so they won't work straight across, but some of them, you know, will. And if you're not sure which ones those might be, we can take a look at textures down here. And these textures, so like this one right here, this is a UV'd model. So what it is the model was made, it was cut into pieces, and the textures were applied to those individual pieces, so that when you have the statue, for this one is an angel, when you have the statue out, it will look correct. Okay, so that one would not work necessarily just by throwing it on something else, but there are other textures like floors and walls and things like that that will work just fine. And if you wanted some of your models that you created using the geometry to match some of the models that you're pulling in from some of these other kits, that's one way of doing it, is to find what the texture is, and then going in and finding the material and applying the material to your here's that Asia wall right here, applying that material to your model, and then kind of playing around with it as a material instance like we talked about before in a previous video. All right, so that's kind of where you can get these from. Let me go ahead and jump into the one that we haven't looked at called Meshes. And inside here, this is where all the models and the different model pieces are. There's even one called Props in here. If we take a look at that, you can see the different props. I threw that tree out there. There's this tree right here. You can see that there's something I put in there because it's turned black on my screen here. All right. So I wanted to kind of show you stitching together, because back here in the background, you can see this is where I've built sort of a partial level to kind of demonstrate what you can do with this in this kind of context as being something that might provide a obstacle course or something like that, a background for an obstacle course. All right, so what I did was I grabbed some of these rocks right here. So this big cliff, okay, and I've got that big cliff there, and if you hold Alt and just kind of drag off of it, you can pull them off, and then you can kind of move them together, stitch them together. One of the things you want to make sure is that you don't have any exposed ends on it where you can see the edges, and you can kind of see that along here along the bottom. That's one of the things I have an issue with. So what I could do is I could just pull this down a little bit and hide that down in the ground. Same with this one over here. And start kind of stitching things together so that it looks like a one-piece cliff. We don't want to have it have edges kind of hanging off like we do right here. And I can give you a demonstration real quick. So if I pulled one out loose here and I just kind of stuck it in here like this, and I stopped right there, a player would be able to come along and could actually see along the edges here, along the edge right along here. And if they got close enough to it, or were able to get around behind it or in between, you would see that These are one-sided models. They don't have inside to them. And that would be something you don't want the player to see, right? So when you're putting these together, you need to start thinking about this from the context or from the viewpoint of the player. What can the player see? You need to try it out, hit play a lot, run through it with your player and see what you can see, try to break through things. Some of these don't always have their colliders, so you need to test that out too to see if you have the colliders. Do you bounce off of it, or can you roll through it? If you roll through it, that's probably not something you want, especially if it's something that a player can get to. If this is going to be something off behind a wall, just kind of add a background, of course that doesn't matter as much, right? So it's really something that a player can see or get to that you got to start thinking about. All right. So that's kind of what you can do. You can take them in there, stitch them together. If I hit play, and one of the things I want to show you, because my play is actually, my player start is over in the other map, but if I wanted to be able to play from here, up here where this little buttons are for the start and stop, if you hit the 3 button right here and change it to current camera location, wherever your camera is where your player will start. Okay, and so you can kind of try out some of the different assets, see how they work. Of course, these temples have stairs, but a lot of the stairs are pretty small, so if you wanted to, you could roll up onto some of these and use them that way as well. Make them part of your obstacles. Okay, so yeah. All right, so now I'm going to change this back, and we're going to do player start at the default start location, and I'm going to hit play. We're going to jump over to the other map. All right, so this is a Coliseum that's also in that same kit that I was just showing you, and I put it together. It comes in 3 pieces, so you'll have to stitch it together and make sure you pay attention to your seams. So these are the rocks that I was just demonstrating to you, and I used a few other rocks to kind of fill in some voids and give it some more detail. And then that torch video where I show you how to make those torches, that's here. That was video number 7 in that other series of how to make your first game. Down here, I've modified the cannons a little bit. I will probably put together a tutorial on how to do that real quick. It's just some minor stuff, adding. All I really did was just added some particles and added some sound, which we've already done. So if you wanted to try that yourself, you can do that. But as you can see, one of the things you got to think about is how you're going to lay your world out. Is it going to be an obstacle course with challenges like we just went through? And then the various places for the coins that the player has to risk to get to. Of course, the point of this is to pick the obstacles up in order to be able to complete the level, right? This has a downward slope to it. At the very top there, I used, so the floor is made out of the geometry, and I put a texture on it to kind of match what I wanted. And the ceiling is also just some geometry that I put a texture on that matches the rocks. That one is a beach rock one I used from Bridge. And then just kind of stitched everything together, made sure that there's no gaps to try to hide some of the lights. And then come down around here around the corner, which is not complete yet. And you can kind of see that as I'm piecing it together. This, I decided to go between light and dark for this one. So I'll probably have one or two more open areas that will be harder for the player to get through, sort of like arenas or something. And then some more of these kind of dark areas in here. This is one style of obstacle, of course. There are others that you can make, which are, you know, your basic obstacle course, kind of like what we were working on up on the other level up over there. One of the things I want to show you here real quick is that these are, again, just all I did was used geometry from like we did in the last lesson, and I applied some material to it from Bridge to give it this look so that it kind of matched those rocks up there. And this is just some other dirt with rocks in it material. I am using these for both the ceiling and the floor, but also as a backstop, because one of the issues I've run into sometimes with these models that are one-sided is that sometimes light can pass through them in certain areas. So by using a solid, simple geometry like this, it helps block that, and by using a similar material, just in case there's any gaps that you miss, that'll help kind of block that. But of course, you want to play test it a lot, have your have someone else play test it a lot, and just kind of try it out. And you can kind of see I got a little gap light right there. I got to figure out what that's coming from. So yeah, that's kind of it. You just need to start thinking about how you want to lay your game out. That's the next thing I want to talk about real quick is kind of how that works. One of the things you want to think about is what is it you're trying to do? What do you want the style of your game to be? Do you want it to be all one kind of style? Do you want it to, every time they go to a new level, it's a completely different style, which is kind of a cool thing to do too? Do you want to go back and forth between that? But one of the things I do recommend is your first level should kind of be a level set up for your player, so whoever's going to play your game, to learn how to play your game. You know, you don't want to make it so hard and so frustrating that they just quit after the first attempt trying to play it, after the first few attempts. You want them to learn how to control the player, how to move around. You want them to learn what they can and can't do. You want to put in some of the things they need to achieve. So that, of course, they need to have pickups. Maybe not all your pickups. If you have different types of pickups, maybe just one or two types. Some lower scoring ones or whatever, if you're going to use a scoring system. And then also the punishments. What happens if they go into a fire? Do they die? Do they lose points? So you need to have some of that set up too. You need to have some of the basic stuff set up. Here inside of this cavern, I have these cannons, and above each cannon, I have one of these torch lights. So it's kind of a visual cue to the player, if they're paying attention, that maybe not always is there going to be a cannon underneath one of these, but if there's going to be a cannon, it's going to be underneath one of these torch lights. Okay, these standing torches have nothing to do with them. They're just kind of laid out to provide additional light. So the player, may not pick up on it right away, but they might. Right here, this is that area I was telling you where I put together another. So in order to get this slant on the floor, since it's just one solid piece and straight down, what I did was I just used another geometry, created this kind of a ramp style so the ball can go up and down. Because remember, we are working with a ball, so we got to be able to make it so that the ball can maneuver around, up and down, back and forth. Of course, you can also extrude this out. So if you wanted to, you could extrude and go at different angles up and down, so that instead of having this just one long flat piece that goes down at an angle, you could give it some additional up and down geometry as it moves through there. That's one of the nice things about the geometries is you can extrude and you can change your vertices and your edges so that you can create some more complicated geometry out of it. What else? Okay, so up here, this is something I hadn't really talked about yet, but this is a barrier. It's called a blocking volume. You can get those here under your place actors, under volumes. Right here is a blocking volume. What this is kind of an invisible wall. I put it up above here because I discovered if I come really, really fast up this path, I can hit this gate and then I can fly up into the air, and that allows the player to kind of look around, see that there's nothing outside these walls, and also see the backside of this these walls up here. And just to take a look at this, you can see that this isn't it's not really a complete model on the outside. It's just, all it is again, it's like Hollywood props. You're worried about what the player or the viewer can see. You're not worried about anything else. All of the extra stuff is just extra processing power the computer has to use. It uses up your resources, and it can get expensive with the higher detailed models. So you really just want to focus on areas that the player is going to see. You want to focus on functionality and methods of keeping the player in and doing and moving in the direction you want them to go. And you'll get progressively harder as they go through your levels. So those are some things to think about. That's kind of what we're going to do for the next few days. In my classroom, we're going to do it for the next couple of weeks. We're going to build out our 3 levels. I will be putting some more videos out on how to add the emitters to the play the sound and the emitters on the cannon. It's no different than what we've done before. And then also how to get the projectiles to explode when they hit, which is pretty similar. We're just using this get transform here and just tying it in there. Okay, so that's really it for this video. I'm not going to add much more to it. I just really wanted to talk you through kind of kit bashing, giving you some ideas about game design and how you want to get started so that you can start kind of playing around, start planning out your level. Usually there's more thought to putting together a level, but since this is meant to be a simple roller game, obstacle type course, I just wanted to throw some ideas at you to allow you to kind of run with it and start having you try them out. Because in the learning stages, that's kind of the best thing to do, is just have some ideas, throw some things out there and play through it and see if it works and learn from it. And as we go along, there may be some additional things we want to add, so I will be listening to my students for what they want me to add in, things like sounds, like cannons and explosions and things like that, additional lighting. There may be some other things we pick up along the way that we may do that may add some interest. Don't forget about your kill volume. If your players are going to fall off of something, if you have them moving across a very narrow bridge that has no guardrails, which is part of the obstacle, the intent is if they fall, they'll die or they'll fall into something. Use the kill volume. That's why we made it without anything in the middle of it. It's transparent, and if they fall through it, they will die. The fire that we put into it is just an example of a visual cue to a player not to go there. But falling off of something is kind of obvious. You don't want to fall off because you may die. So use the kill volume to help with that as well. All right, so that's pretty much it. Oh, one other thing for the wind volume, I've discovered in the video, I must have edited it out. You actually need to take the wind volume, the blueprint wind volume, and put it somewhere, like in front of that portal building thing that we put together, okay? That's the wind volume. It has to actually, the player has to actually go through that. That portal does nothing. All right, so other than that, I will see you all next time. If you liked what you saw, please like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll see you next time.